By 10:20 a.m. on the 4th of June 1942, Kaga had evaded several attacks conducted by U.S. aircraft from Midway Island and the carrier task forces. Kaga was in the process of resupplying a few of its CAP fighters when at 10:22, lookouts sighted dive bombers overhead. The lookouts estimated that 30 dive bombers were approaching Kaga, and as they started to dive, the ship began to evade to starboard. Kaga's hard maneuver enables it to dodge the first set of bombs dropped. However, it could not evade them all, as at least 4 bombs had hit, with 1 being a 1,000-pound bomb and 3 being 500-pound bombs, and there is the potential for another 500-pound bomb, though it is not confirmed. Because of the short time span that the bombs had struck the ship, it's difficult to tell which ones struck first and which ones struck last. So, from the bow to the stern, 1 bomb had struck the forward elevator, followed by another bomb just after the forward elevator in the vicinity of the island. The next struck amidships near the port side 12.7-centimeter dual-purpose guns, and the last one struck the stern in the vicinity of the aft elevator. The 5th unconfirmed bomb is believed to have struck beside or directly on the island. The impact of these bombs was devastating, not just because of the bombs themselves, but because they triggered a series of secondary internal explosions that ripped the ship's upper structure apart. Kaga was in the process of arming an attack wave. This meant that there were fueled and armed aircraft within the hangars, along with ordnance scattered around the hangar floors, and aviation fuel lines in operation. So when the US bombs detonated, it triggered all of this equipment to explode. Besides the hangars and flight deck having been annihilated in the explosions, Kaga's island was also severely damaged and even destroyed by some accounts, resulting in the death of the captain, executive officer, gunnery director, and chief navigator. The chief damage control officer took over command of the ship. Kaga's propulsion machinery had remained intact following the bombing, and the ship kept up its forward momentum. However, it was stuck in the starboard turn, as its steering mechanisms had been disabled following the bombing, so the damage control teams switched over to emergency steering to regain control of the ship's course. At this time, it was recognized that Soru and Akagi had also been hit by bombs, and were both ablaze as well. By 11:30, the damage control teams aboard Kaga were losing the fight against the fires that were still raging and were spreading throughout the ship, and Rear Admiral Yamaguchi aboard Hiru orders Cruiser Division 8 to detach 1 destroyer to remain by the sides of the stricken Japanese carriers. IJN Kaga was assigned to Kaga. Yamaguchi also orders the 3 stricken carriers to retire north towards Isoroku Yamamoto's main battleship force. However, none of the carriers respond, and so at 11:47, Yamaguchi sends the order through again, and this time Kaga responds and begins to move north at 8 knots. Kaga is the only carrier that would respond to Yamaguchi's order. By 1300, the flames, which were still out of control, were spreading throughout the lower sections of the ship, and damage control were not able to keep them out of the machinery spaces, and so the machinery was shut down. Over the course of the next few minutes, Kaga would slowly drift to a stop for the final time. By 1325, Hagekaze had positioned itself at Kaga's side, and the Emperor's portrait was removed. Senior Air Officer Takahisa orders non-essential personnel to abandon ship, and crew members begin jumping overboard into the sea below to be collected by the Hagekaze. At 14:10, the USS Nautilus, which had moved into firing position, launches torpedoes at Kaga, and scores 1 hit on the ship's starboard quarter, but the torpedo failed to detonate. Nautilus would escape to fight again another day. By 1640, the destroyer Maikaze joined Kaga and Hagekaze. At the time, the senior damage control officer ordered all personnel to abandon Kaga, as the situation was hopeless. At 17:15, Hagekaze informs Nagumo that all personnel had been removed from Kaga. At 7:50, Nagumo passes the message along to Yamamoto, informing Yamamoto that Kaga was inoperable. At 1800, the destroyer Arashi orders Hagekaze to remain at Kaga's side until further notice. And a few minutes later, it asked if Kaga was beginning to sink. At 1856, after much deliberation, it was decided that Soru and Kaga should both be scuttled. Hagekaze positions itself to Kaga's starboard side and launches 2 torpedoes. Both torpedoes strike the starboard side at the stern. The ship began to sink by the stern, and by 1925, Kaga was gone. It had taken 814 sailors with it to the bottom of the ocean. On the 10th of August, 1942, Kaga was removed from the operational register. Kaga was not the first Japanese carrier of more than 25,000 tons displacement to be hit during the war. However, it was the first to be sunk. One of the prides of the Imperial Japanese Navy had finally been taken out, and the Japanese would never be able to replace it. However, Kaga's story did not end with its sinking, as on the 18th of October, 2019, the ship's wreck was discovered. It is one of the few Japanese carriers we know the position of today. With that having been said, there is nothing more to add on to this topic for today. So, if you have learned something new, why not leave a like and a comment down below? Have a wonderful day.